Hmm.
All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Kyle Escamilla, and I am the training coordinator for Aviva Select California. I'd like to thank you for attending our Learn in 30 webinar today, focused on InTouch data logging. After the webinar this morning, we will be doing a short Q&A, so please feel free to type any questions or comments into the Q&A box or the chat, and we will get to them at the end. And now I would like to introduce your presenter for today's webinar, Elkanza Kusa. Elkanza is a product specialist here at Aviva Select California. Good morning, Elkanza.
Hi, good morning, good afternoon. Thank you, Kyle. And thank you everyone for joining us in today's webinar. You can see my screen, right?
Yep, everything is looking
Awesome.
good.
So we're going to be talking about AVEVA InTouch HMI local data logging. Let's move to the next slide. I will be talking about, first of all, local data logging in InTouch applications and how to do that. And we're also going to be looking at utilizing industrial graphics. So we're going to be using the multi-pen industrial graphic or graphic elements. And we're also going to be using the trend client to retrieve that local data. It's the local data, the local historized data in InTouch is called LGH. So I'm going to be referring to that as LGH data throughout this presentation. We're also going to be covering Software Toolbox's LGH file inspector tool. And I have a few slides to show you guys how that looks like. And then we're going to be talking about accessing your LGH data with AVEVA Reports. So we'll use that as a client to retrieve the data. And then the very last thing is if you decide to move to AVEVA Historian and you want to backfill all of that LGH data into your Historian, how to do that. All right, so first things first. Sorry. I'm gonna jump into the virtual machine to show you guys the application that I have here. It's a very small application, just a small demo application here. And as you could see, I have, by the way, I have the 2023 R2 SP1 installed here, which is the latest and greatest. I believe maybe there's one or two patches after that, but those are just security and patches. They don't really have new features. So the points that we'll be, this is my database. The points that we're going to be working on are temperatures 1, 2, 3. And they're basically getting the data through a simulator. I have a ModeSim simulator running here in the background that's going to be generating the data, and I'm reading the data from that simulator. So the first thing that I wanted to show you is for those of you who haven't worked on the 2023 InTouch, this is how it looks like. This is Window Maker. Looks a little bit different than previous releases, but everything is still there, maybe just in a different location. So what I want to show you is in the backstage here. If you click on Configure and click on Historical Logging, this is where we configure either logging the data in your InTouch application utilizing the LGH files, as you could see here. So just by checking this checkbox, no coding, no scripting is required. You just need to check this checkbox here to enable historical logging locally. And then you get to choose whether you want that to be stored in the application directory, which is what I chose right here, or you want that to be in a specific directory, right? It doesn't even have to be on the same machine, as long as it's on the same network and as long as the machine where you have your InTouch application can reach that directory. So I'm just, for sake of simplicity, I'm keeping it on the same application directory. The other tab right here is the historian logging. And again, the point of this webinar is to highlight the local logging in InTouch. We're not going to be utilizing AVEVA Historian. So I'm not even enabling the storage to the AVEVA Historian. And then once you're done with this, you just click on Save here at the bottom. And, your settings will be saved and the data will be logged in wherever you chose to log it. Now, going back to the application, I think the next thing, so this is how you log or how you configure logging into your InTouch application or logging data in your InTouch application. The next thing I wanted to talk about is utilizing industrial graphics to retrieve the LGH files. And I'll be jumping back to the machine here. I just have a couple of windows and a couple of industry graphics here. I actually have them open, so I don't waste time waiting for the editors to open here. As you can see, I use this in the tools here. I use the multi-pen trend. And the way to configure that, there's just a tiny trick there. So, you go through configuring the pins here to talk to specific points or specific tags. I use the dot fields here to define the minimum and the maximum for the second one. For example, for temp2, I used the order range. The third one, I just used a fixed values for the scale. But the point that I want to bring up is in options here, down in the bottom, you see this default trend source. I chose this to be the InTouch log history, which is the LGH files. And at this point, you have to specify the UNC path. And in this case, it's this application for me. So in the C drive, in the training, I have this InTouch application that is called LGH_demo1. And this is where I'm saving my LGH files. So I have to refer to that here. It's very, very easy to set up. Just a couple of checkboxes and buttons in here. You say okay to that. And I added just these situational awareness text entry here just to read the temperatures. And that's it. That's all I had to do to retrieve the data from the LGH files. All of this is out of the box. All of this is built in InTouch. So you don't have to purchase any extra tools to either log or retrieve the data in your HMI. In the runtime, this is how it looks like, right? The one here to the left side is the multi-pen. I made them a little bit smaller. I was working on a smaller screen earlier, but this is basically the industry graphic that we were just editing, and this is how it looks like in the runtime. On the other side here, I have the native InTouch trend client, and that looks like this in the development environment, right? So now here I have the industry graphic up in here, and also same thing, I'm gonna right click on it just to show you how it's configured. Same story, I configured the pens here and I reference the 3 temperatures, but then in the historical sources, I make sure I choose InTouch log history and I don't choose the historian. So you just need to make sure again to choose the right source for the history, and either of these tools can pull data from either, your local LGH files, or if you have an AVEVA Historian, they can also do that. Now, there's a third tool that I'm not using here, which is the Historian client trend, right? The Historian trend client, which is this one right here. I'm not using that because that one is only specifically pulling data or retrieving data from your AVEVA Historian, and I don't even have that configured, so I'm not going to use that trend. So I have two other options, which are the multi-pen and now the InTouch trend client. Going back to the runtime, just one last time, this is how it looks like in the runtime. And this could be embedded in your, this is my InTouch window viewer. So these trends could be embedded in your HMI, and you could retrieve the data that you logged locally in your InTouch. So that's that for this section. The next tool that I want to talk about is actually a third-party tool, which is the Software Toolbox's LGH File Inspector tool. I have a few slides here where it just explains the concept of this tool. It's a very easy to use, very easy to install tool, and it's not that expensive also. So the idea is that you have your InTouch application, you're saving or logging the data into your LGH files, and then you use this inspector. So this inspector looks at the files and then exports the results, or you could query the data and exports the results either as a CSV file or as an Excel file, or you could also import that in the AVEVA Historian, which we're going to be talking about at the very end. I hope this screenshot is clear, but the idea is it's a separate tool. It's a standalone tool that you could embed in your HMI itself. So this is how it looks like. This is not part of the window maker. This is the inspector tool. You get to choose the dates, the time of, the time range. on the time period of the query. And then you choose the tags that you would like to query, you run the query, and this is how the results look like, right? So again, either in a CSV file or an Excel file, you could export that data, you could have a look at it. Otherwise, you cannot view the LGH files, right? You can just click on them and, see rows or text or anything. So you're going to need either the inspector or you're going to need to retrieve the data through, the industrial graphics that I just shown or, AVEVA Reports or something else. I think I have one more slide for that. So this is how it looks like, the tool when it's embedded in Window Viewer or it's embedded in your InTouch HMI screens. This is how it looks like. This is window 1 or on window_001. This is the configuration area or panes right here. And then these are the results, as you can see. Right? And you could send that to Excel or CSV. So that's for our second method, I would say, for retrieving data or for retrieving local LGH data. The third way to do it, or the third method that I want to present here, is using AVEVA Reports. And that obviously is a separate tool or a separate product. So if you do have AVEVA Reports, it is possible to connect your, let me minimize everything. It is possible to use a driver, a native driver that exists in AVEVA Reports to connect to your LGH files or to read data directly from your LGH files. So what I have right here, I want to show you first that driver. So this is the driver configuration, AVEVA, and then under AVEVA you have multiple drivers. All of these are out of the box, by the way, the drivers. There's also like other brands, Emerson, I think there's one for Siemens, Schneider, Rockwell. As you can see here, there are a bunch of them. But the one that we're interested in today is the InTouch HMI historical values, which is specifically retrieving data from these LGH files. So I made sure I configure that. This is the driver that I created just to show you how the process is. You would choose the location for that data for the LGH files. And again, in my case, it's my InTouch application, and then you choose the scan frequency and whether it's a 2023 or the application is running 2023 or after, or is it prior to 2020. So all of that was configured, and I am able to browse the data from here when I'm importing or embedding objects here in the reports. I created a super simple report here just to show you how it's done, but you guys could go more complex. So what I have here is what we call a step table. If I double click on that, these are the 3 tags that are in my InTouch, and the way to access those is through an external history server, edit list, and this is the one. This is the driver that I created, the demo_LGH. So these are the 3 points. I made sure I add those, and then you could play with the settings here. So I added the maximum, the minimum, the average, and then the time period for how long you want the report to be. The other one here is just a simple item table, and I also added the 3 temperatures. It's just going to give me a list of all the values for these three IOs or for these 3 data points over one day. So if I don't think I made changes, but let's save anyways. Sorry. And if I run the project, it's preparing the project to run it and generate the report as a PDF. All right, so this is the report. I want to check PDF and generate. Oh, it's in the background. There you go. This is how it looks like. So this is the first table right there, and this is the second table, the longer one with all the values for over 24 hours, right? So this is how you would retrieve data from your LGH files or, from your InTouch application through AVEVA Reports. So this is the third point or the third method of, how to retrieve the data and what you could do with the data. The last one, or the fourth one, I think I'm doing great on time, surprisingly. I thought I was going to be over time. But the fourth one here is actually in case or if you decide one day to upgrade, right? So you've been using InTouch, you have a small application, you have this InTouch application running and logging data locally in your LGH files, and then one day you decide to expand and you decide to start using AVEVA Historian. Obviously, there are benefits of using AVEVA Historian. I'm not going to get into that now, but you can actually backfill your old LGH data into the AVEVA Historian. It's not that if you jump or you move to AVEVA Historian, you've lost all the data that you have, accumulated or saved for years. So there's an out-of-the-box utility that comes with the Historian. It's called data import, where you could use either LGH files to backfill into the Historian, or you could use, older Historian data to also backfill into the Historian. It could be used for multiple things. I'm going to show you a video of how to do that right now. But I need to jump back to my presentation. Can you, Kyle, if you could tell me if you could see the screen right now?
I see the PowerPoint presentation right now.
Okay, and I'm gonna move through the, right.
All right, the video's playing, yeah.
There you go. It's faster than me. It's always faster than me. All right. So there, sorry. You could basically, the first thing that you need to do is to import the data or create those tags into the Historian. And that's a very important step. You can't just start backfilling or importing the LGH data into the Historian. You have to have prepared the data, the Historian to receive that data, right? So this is what I'm doing here in the first part of the video. I'm going to the Historian. I'm just looking at the tags. All of these are system tags. I don't have any tags replicated or collected from the InTouch application. And I'm going to start by importing the tags first. So you use this import wizard utility here, navigating to the LGH_demo1 application here, and I'm going to click on the tag name.x file, and I'm going to say OK to that. Next, I want to add a unique string here, it1 dot, just to make sure that I can recognize those tags that are getting imported. This is exactly, for those of you who have done this before, this is exactly as importing what we call like importing the tag name dictionary or the tag name, tag name dictionary into your Historian to start collecting data through the Historian. What happens after this is the Historian generates or kind of, you're creating the tags into the Historian, and you could start collecting history for these tags through the OI server. And that's what happens here also. So what we're doing here is we're just prepping the Historian to receive the data from the LGH files by creating these tags in the Historian. So I'm going to continue playing here.
Oh, did it reset?
I know I don't, it did it? Okay, yeah, I think so. Yeah,
There we
so
go.
I was here, and then I clicked on finish. And I just chose the tags that are IO tags, and then I'm also choosing the topics here. So I wanted to remove some of these access points, and I just wanted to include the one that has the data, which is this PLC sim in my case here for this application. I chose that with topic 1, said OK to that, and then said next and finish. I left everything as it is here, but you get also to choose the retrieval, or sorry, the historization. All right, so it's saying it's successful, and it shows me a summary of what was imported and what was skipped. Now, if I go back and check the data, I think in the I think I'm checking the analog tags there. I see all of those IT1, right? So all of these are the points that I imported into the historian right now. And those are the three that we're interested in: temperatures 1, 2, and 3. The next step would be importing, using this data importer, importing the LGH files into your historian. Now, there are a few tricks here, but I'll just finish the video first and then I'll go through those. So I'm looking for that LGH file. I'm just browsing for it. It's in my LGH_demo1 application directory. I choose that and then I say, okay, and process, sending the tag values, and it's saying it was processed successfully. And that's how I know I was able to import the data. Now, the next thing, if you want to verify or you want to see how your historian, how the data is looking in your history blocks, you could always use the trend. And that's what I'm doing right here. Now, I'm going to pause here. When you're doing this, you do want to avoid this gap. You want to make sure you don't have this gap. The reason why I have this gap is because I made a mistake, and this is what I wanted to bring up. If your LGH files have the same data with the same timestamps as it exists in your history blocks, you're going to get an error. So what you want to do is you want to make sure once you start collecting the data through your historian, your LGH files are not collecting more data, right? So because the minute you start collecting through the historian, it starts writing into the history blocks. At that point, you want to turn off or you want to shut down your window viewer because you do not want to be writing data into your LGH files anymore. So what I have right here is this is where I started collecting the data through my historian, and this is the old LGH files. Everything here, I actually had to go and delete those history blocks or delete that history block that had this data because I was getting an error when I was trying to import the data. The trick is you want to make sure you start collecting the data through your historian, and at the same time, you stop collecting data through your LGH files. So when you do the import, there is no overlap and you don't get an error. So I just wanted to point that out. I learned that the hard way, and I had to, shut down my historian, delete history blocks, and redo the whole thing multiple times to be able to actually, see the old data and the new data and see it actually in action. So there's more about this in the documentation. I love the AVEVA documentation. Let me try and bring up my machine one more time.
Hey, Okanza, do we have time for a question, or are we saving those for the end?
We do. I mean, I'm pretty much done actually with the presentation. The very last thing I wanted to show is just the documentation, but we can start taking the questions while I'm showing the documentation and how to reach them.
Yeah, Channing, I see you have your hand raised. I'll let you talk here and ask your question. You should be able to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, coming through okay.
Wonderful. So I just wanted to clarify what was just said. Would it be wise then, before doing that first step where we import our tagname.x file from our InTouch native app, would it be wise to go into Window Maker and turn off the LGH logging and then do that first step?
Yes. So you want to do that, but you don't want to have a big gap. You don't want to do that over 2 days, right? So you want
as
to
quick
do
as
that
possible, within minutes.
Exactly. You want to do that as soon as possible. You want to stop logging the data in the LGH files, or if you want to continue, that's also okay. Just make sure you don't choose that specific LGH file to be imported. Maybe you want to start with the older ones first, right?
Got it.
Just make sure there's never an overlap because it's going to give you a funny database error that is not going to go away until you fix it.
Delightful. Okay,
Which
thanks for the
makes sense.
clarification.
Awesome, thank you.
Good question. Thank you. Any other questions while I'm bringing up the documentation?
Yeah, I guess now's a good time for us to open the floor for questions. Yeah, you can either raise your hand if you wish to ask your question over the mic, or you can put your question in the Q&A box as well as the chat, and I'll read it out for you and get it answered. Elkans is
And,
very experienced, so it's good to take advantage of her while she's here.
Thank you, Kyle. There's one thing I wanted to mention is that the data logging into InTouch, the local data logging has been there for ages. It's been there, I think, as long as the product's been there. So this isn't a new feature. I feel like there's maybe not everyone knows out there that, you do not require an AVEVA historian to historize data. I mean, AVEVA InTouch is capable of logging data locally. It depends on your application and what you need. I'm going to show just one thing here quickly before we take the next question. Um, for those of you who have been using Wonderware and InTouch and AVEVA for a while, the documentation has come a long way. I love the new documentation that AVEVA has. It's online, it's public. You can access it through docs.aveva.com. You can find anything about InTouch application server, historian, and all of these old products here. Everything, in steps, and everything is browsable very, very easily. You can export things as PDFs. And the nicest thing, the last thing that I realized that they're doing is this AI summarize here. So it looks at, like, for example, if you have a long process here, it summarizes that for you in bullet points or, in steps here, using this summarize button. I feel like I'm very happy with this, so I wanted to share it with everyone. I just discovered this 2 days ago, so I'm very happy with it. So I hope you guys find this helpful also. And this is, by the way, for a lot of other products. It's not just InTouch, all of these products here. Just wanted to put that through. Right, we can take the next question, Kyle.
Yeah, we did get one that came in through the Q&A. Someone asked, how far back can I view or retrieve the log data with an InTouch?
As I mean, if you have 10 years worth of data, you can view that data. There's no limit. It's as long as you have been saving it, basically. And as long as you have space for it on the machine, you can view that data. It's still the same format, and the utility is provided by AVEVA still work on it. So yeah, I would say as long as you have been saving history. That's a good question.
Awesome. And there's another one here. Is there a best practice or a best way to back up or archive LGH files?
Best practice. I don't know of any automated way to do that, but I would say, as I was showing in the machine right here, if it's in your application directory, you just need to take a backup of that LGH file. You go to the folder here and just take a backup and put it somewhere else, right? You want to make sure you don't delete it by mistake. And by the way, that's actually a good question. It brings up another point. When you're importing LGH files into the historian using that data importer, it does delete the LGH files from your directory. So make sure you have a backup. And it's as simple as just taking, copying it and putting it somewhere else. I think I have a couple of them here. I was paranoid yesterday when I was practicing this. So I made sure I have multiple copies of this. So just take a copy and put it somewhere else. That's it.
Awesome. All right, any other questions? Oh, someone asked, is there a way to automate these reports from the log data using AVEVA Reports?
Yes. The answer is yes, and that is a feature of AVEVA Reports. So when you are creating a new report, you want to go to report setting, and this is where, if you want to generate it on an event or you want to generate it based on a time limit or a time period. You want to generate it every week, every day, every month, and who you send it to. All of that could be configured here in the report setting itself. It's not per project, it's actually per report. So you could have multiple projects, multiple reports inside of a project. And then each of these reports can be configured on its own. That's actually a very good question. Regardless to the data source, so you could be getting data from AVEVA Historian, from Pi, from even like a third party, as I was showing you earlier. It does integrate with multiple sources because it does come with out of the box drivers. So regardless of the data source, AVEVA Reports offers this automatic report generation based on time periods or based on events, as you can see here on the screen.
Awesome. And I think that is it, unless anyone has any last questions here.
I saw a question in the chat. I do have a hard stop. I need to jump, but I saw a question in the chat asking about LGH file from Mike Ash. Hi, Mike. LGH file size and storage requirements. I would check that in the documents. I do not know on top of my mind, but I would check that in the documentation if there is any reference of that for that. But you would notice when you start logging the data is that LGH file size grows bigger and bigger with time as you are logging data. I'm not sure what's the threshold and when does it jump exactly to a new file. But it's probably in the documentation somewhere. I just don't know on top of my mind. Sorry.
Awesome. Is there any more questions before we close out here? We love all these questions, by the way. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you. Very nice. Very, very good questions.
All right. Well, I would like to thank you, Okanza, and I'd just like to thank everyone who attended. If anyone would like to review any portion of this webinar, a recording will be available on YouTube and our website, california.avivaselect.com, once available. And we will also be sending a copy of it via email to all those who registered today. So with that, we would like to thank you guys for attending and would like to wish you a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much.